Imagine standing in the center of an unmarked forest. No paths, no signs. No way to know which direction leads home. This is humanity's original condition, surrounded by world but unable to comprehend it. Then we invented something revolutionary. We learned to see from above. We created maps, and in doing so, we didn't just record the world. We taught ourselves to imagine it, to understand it, to claim it. Maps made us who we are. But here's what's fascinating. Maps don't just show us the world. They show us how we think about the world. A medieval monk's map places Jerusalem at the center because that's the center of his universe. A Polynesian navigator's chart shows ocean currents because that's how he survives. Every map is a story about what matters, about what's real, about who has power. Maps don't just reflect reality, they create it. This is the story of maps, a story of humanity slowly, painfully, brilliantly figuring out where we are. From scratches on clay tablets to satellites circling Earth, from flat disks to spheres to GPS coordinates that know your location within meters. It's a story of exploration and empire, of science and imagination, of the eternal human question, what does the world look like? And with every map we've made, we've answered that question differently, because the world keeps changing, and so do we. The first human who tried to make a map faced an impossible challenge. How do you show the world when you've only seen a tiny piece of it? When you've never flown, never seen from above, never even climbed high enough to see beyond the next valley? The answer? You imagine. You guess. You use what you know to extrapolate what you don't. Early maps are as much imagination as observation. They're humanity's first attempt at abstract thinking, at representing the real with symbols. The oldest known map dates to around 600 BCE, a clay tablet from Babylon. It shows the world as a flat disk surrounded by water, with Babylon, of course, at the center. Rivers branch outward. Distant lands are marked at the edges. It's not accurate by modern standards, but it's brilliant. It reduces the overwhelming complexity of the world to something comprehensible, something you can hold in your hands. For the first time, a human could see their entire world at once. The ancient Greeks revolutionized mapping with a radical idea: mathematics. Eratosthenes calculated Earth's circumference with remarkable accuracy around 240 BCE. Ptolemy created a coordinate system using latitude and longitude. They didn't just draw what they saw, they measured it. They applied geometry to geography. For the first time, maps could be both abstract and accurate. The world became a sphere that could be calculated, predicted, understood through numbers. Then came the medieval TO maps. These weren't about accuracy, they were about meaning. The world was drawn as a T inside an O, with Asia on top, Europe and Africa below, Jerusalem at the center, and Eden at the edge. These maps showed the world as theology, not geography. East was up because that's where paradise was. Monsters inhabited the edges because beyond God's world was chaos. These maps remind us, what we draw reveals what we believe. Halfway around the world, Polynesian navigators created a completely different kind of map. Stick charts, woven from palm fronds and shells, showed ocean swells, currents, and islands. These weren't maps to look at while sailing. They were teaching tools, memorized before the voyage. The real map was in the navigator's mind, built from years of reading waves and stars. Here, the map wasn't the territory. The navigator was. Knowledge lived in the body, not on paper. During Europe's Middle Ages, Islamic scholars preserved and advanced Greek knowledge. Al-Idrisi created the Tabula Rogeriana in 1154, one of the most advanced maps of the medieval world. It was oriented with south at the top, showing the Islamic world in unprecedented detail. trade routes, mountain ranges, river systems. Islamic cartographers combined mathematics, astronomy, and traveler accounts into maps of remarkable sophistication. While Europe drew theology, Islam was drawing trade routes and scientific observation. In China, cartographers were innovating in different directions. By the 3rd century, Peishu established 6 principles of map-making: scale, orientation, measuring distances, elevations, angles, and curves. Chinese maps showed administrative divisions, military routes, and the sophisticated canal systems. And crucially, they invented the compass, giving navigators a reliable way to find north. Chinese cartography was practical, administrative, empire-building. Every map was a tool of governance and control. By the 1400s, European maps had a problem: blank spaces. Huge areas marked terra incognita, unknown lands. These blanks haunted explorers. What treasures lay beyond? What civilizations? What dangers? Maps became documents of desire and fear. The blank spaces weren't just missing information, they were invitations, promises of gold, spices, glory. Every explorer who sailed into the unknown was trying to fill those blanks, to make the invisible visible, to claim the unnamed. Christopher Columbus sailed west in 1492 with a map that was fundamentally wrong. He believed Asia was much closer than it actually was. He miscalculated Earth's size. When he reached the Caribbean, he thought he'd found India. That's why he called the people Indians. His maps were inaccurate, yet they changed history. This teaches us something profound. Sometimes wrong maps lead to right discoveries. Sometimes getting lost means finding something unexpected. Maps don't just record exploration, they enable it, even when they're mistaken. In 1519, Ferdinand Magellan set out to prove what maps suggested. Earth is a sphere that could be sailed around. His fleet of 5 ships departed Spain. 3 years later, 1 ship returned, without Magellan, who died in the Philippines. But the survivors had circumnavigated the globe. They'd proven Earth's roundness through lived experience. Maps could now be circles that connected. The world was no longer a destination. It was a loop. You could leave home and sail in one direction, and eventually arrive back where you started. But exploration wasn't innocent. Maps became weapons of empire. Drawing a line on a map could claim a continent. In 1494, the Treaty of Tordesillas literally divided the world on paper. Portugal got everything east of a line, Spain everything west. Indigenous peoples who'd lived there for millennia weren't consulted. Maps were tools of conquest. To map a place was to claim it. To name it was to own it. Every European map of the New World was simultaneously a document of discovery and an act of theft. In 1569, Gerardus Mercator created the map projection that would dominate for centuries. The Mercator projection was brilliant for navigation. Straight lines on the map meant constant compass bearings at sea, perfect for sailors. But it distorted size massively. Greenland appears larger than Africa, though Africa is actually 14 times bigger. Europe looks central and enormous. This wasn't just mathematics, it shaped how we see the world. Colonial powers at the top enlarged. Colonized lands at the bottom diminished. Maps don't just show reality, they create perception. By the 1700s, mapping became increasingly scientific. Surveyors used triangulation, measuring angles from known points to unknown locations. The Great Trigonometrical Survey of India, begun in 1802, spent decades precisely mapping the subcontinent. They discovered that Mount Everest was the world's highest peak, named after George Everest, the surveyor, erasing its Nepali name, Sagarmatha. Scientific precision was still entangled with empire. But the methods were revolutionary. Mathematics replacing guesswork. Measurements replacing myths. In the late 1700s, cartographers invented contour lines, those curving lines showing elevation. Suddenly, flat paper could show three-dimensional mountains and valleys. A trained eye could read a topographic map and visualize terrain they'd never seen. Hikers could plan routes. Armies could strategize. Engineers could design railways. Contour lines were a brilliant cognitive tool. They taught us to see shape in abstract form, to read meaning in curves and spacing. Maps became three-dimensional stories told in 2 dimensions. The 20th century brought the view humans had always imagined, seeing from above. First from balloons, then airplanes, finally satellites. Aerial photography revolutionized mapping. We could finally see what we'd been trying to draw for millennia. Rivers really did look like lines. Mountains formed patterns. Cities revealed their geometric order. The bird's-eye view that early mapmakers had to imagine was now real. But this God's-eye perspective came with power. The power to survey, to target, to control from above. Today, satellites circle Earth constantly, photographing every inch. GPS satellites let your phone know your location within meters. Google Earth lets you zoom from space to street level. We've achieved complete cartographic coverage. Every mountain mapped, every road traced, every building plotted. The blank spaces are gone. Terra incognita has vanished. We've mapped the entire world. But something's been lost too. The mystery, the unknown, the blank spaces that invited imagination. What do we explore when there's nothing left to discover? But mapping hasn't ended. It's transformed. Today, we map invisible things. Heat maps show where people gather. Election maps reveal political divisions. Disease maps track pandemics. Climate maps visualize warming. We're mapping data, not just geography, creating new blank spaces to fill. The human genome, the ocean floor, the brain's neural networks. Mapping has become a way of understanding any complex system. The principles remain. Take something overwhelming, reduce it to symbols, make it comprehensible. Maps are how humans understand complexity. Something profound happened when everyone got GPS. For all of human history, being lost was terrifying. Not knowing where you are meant danger. But now, your phone always knows. You can wander without fear. Maps shifted from rare, precious objects studied carefully before journeys to constantly available companions checking your position every second. We've outsourced our sense of direction. Children grow up never learning to read paper maps. Is this liberation or loss? Perhaps both. We're never lost. But do we truly know where we are? Digital maps create new kinds of worlds. Your phone's map shows you coffee shops because you drink coffee. Someone else's shows mosques because they pray. We each see personalized worlds filtered by algorithms. These aren't objective maps, they're custom realities. Two people standing in the same place see different maps on their screens. The medieval monk who put Jerusalem at his world center wasn't so different from us. We all map the world around our own priorities. Only now, computers do it automatically. Yet some things resist mapping. Love can't be plotted. Memory doesn't follow coordinates. Dreams have no GPS. The most important parts of our inner geography remain unmappable. Perhaps this is comforting. Perhaps we need spaces that can't be reduced to symbols and lines. Your personal map of your city. The corner where you first kissed someone. The cafe where you wrote your novel. The street you avoid because it hurts. That map exists only in your mind. Some territories will always be subjective, personal, impossible to share. What if maps taught humanity? That perspective matters. that the view from above reveals patterns invisible from ground level, that where you stand determines what you see, that every representation is a choice, what to include, what to exclude, what to emphasize. Maps taught us that we could understand complex systems by reducing them to essential elements. They showed us that reality can be represented abstractly. Most profoundly, they taught us that knowledge is power. To map something is to begin to control it. To understand its shape is to imagine changing it. Think about your relationship with maps. Perhaps you have a wall map marked with places you've traveled, pins showing where your life has taken you. Maybe you've drawn a map to help someone find your home, translating your familiar streets into symbols. Have you ever been truly lost, disoriented, without any map, and felt that ancient fear? Or found your way using only stars or landmarks, feeling connected to every navigator who came before? Maps are how we tell stories about places, about journeys, about finding home, and venturing into unknown. Tonight, as you prepare for sleep, consider this. Humans have been making maps for thousands of years, yet we're still learning what to map and how. From clay tablets to satellites, from Babylon to your phone, we've been trying to answer the same question. Where are we? Not just geographically, but existentially. Maps help us navigate physical space, but they're also about navigating existence, about knowing our place, about understanding relationships between things, about making sense of complexity. The journey continues. Tomorrow brings new territories to explore, new systems to comprehend, new maps to create. As you drift toward sleep, remember, right now, you know exactly where you are. Not just your latitude and longitude, but your place in the world, in your life's journey, in this moment. You're not lost, you're here. Every map ever made was someone trying to say, you are here, and have it mean something. To place themselves in context, to understand their position. Tonight, you are exactly where you need to be. Your coordinates are perfect. Rest knowing you are found, located, oriented. You are here, and here is good. Rest now, knowing that all the world's explorers and cartographers worked so that you could always find your way. From Polynesian navigators reading waves to GPS satellites circling overhead, it was all so you wouldn't be lost. Sleep in confidence. If you wake disoriented, maps will guide you. If you venture into unknown territory tomorrow, someone has charted a path. The world is mapped. You are located. You can rest in that certainty. Good night, traveler. May you always know where you are, so drift now into dreams. Dream perhaps of distant lands and ancient maps, of explorers charting unknown waters and satellites watching from above, of the moment you first understood what a map was, that magical ability to see the whole world on a single page. Dream of journeys taken and journeys yet to come, of being found when you thought you were lost, of coming home, and know that in your dreams, no GPS is needed. You can wander freely in unmapped territory. Sweet dreams, navigator. Sweet dreams.